Hello and welcome to Beaumont Church, and to welcome to those of you online and to those of you here. Now that Michelle has entered, we are ready to start. Michelle, thanks for being on. And we want to say out loud every week, just no matter what your socioeconomic background, no matter what your ethnicity or race, your sexual identity, sexual orientation or gender identity, no matter where you come from, or even where you're going, we're glad that you're here with us. In fact, we're going to be talking some about that idea of where you're coming and going. And so, welcome to Beaumont.
Hello everyone, my name's Andrew. I am here every now and again, actually pretty often, but whenever I get up here, I seem to be not saying my own words, but speaking Rumi's words instead, who, if you don't know, is a 13th century Muslim mystic, but I love his poetry, and I think it has a lot to say to us here in the present day, and what you should be seeing on the screen, if you're on Zoom, is a portion of a poem that we've selected to kind of meditate on for a little bit this morning, or I still want to say this morning, it's so programmed into me, morning church. But this afternoon, if we want to take a minute, and I'll read this as well, but if we want to just meditate on the words that are on the screen now, and see what these may have to say to us before John and I have a bit of a conversation about this entire poem, which I will read afterward as well. So this portion says, "The stars come up spinning every night, bewildered in love. They grow tired with that revolving if they weren't. They'd say, how long do we have to do this?" So take a second, think about these words and think of maybe what they might be speaking to you this afternoon, if anything. I'll kick us off, I guess, a little bit with this. This section to me kind of talks about how easy it is to get caught up in the ho-hum of every day, the rhythms that we go through, be they with school or with work or even at points with social lives. It's for me easy to, I guess, kind of routine myself, if that makes sense, into a state where I'm more focused on just getting through things, getting them all done, and not taking the joy that I could from every moment in them. And I think that while it's easy to lose sight of that joy, that spark, that love, poems like this remind me that there is a better way. There's a way to stay, I guess, infused with love for myself, with people around me, with God, that can make everything that I have to do or get to do a joyful experience. So that's kind of my experience of it. I don't know if anybody else had anything they wanted to share for it. We do have a mic down there.
We talked about today in Beaumont Sunday School kind of definitions and language, and something that I like that they talked about the book we're reading talks about when it talks about love is it's a divine essence, which is what makes it unique outside. And so whenever I think about stars coming up and spinning, thinking about a divine essence of something greater than us, above us, is kind of this like joyful dance-like movement to make life not boring. There's some real imagery in that I think can really articulate the way life is and the way love works in life.
That's great, I love that. Good deal. This may make a little bit more sense in context. I was going to read actually the whole poem over us. Now it's a poem called Each Note, and then John and I will kind of discuss what this is meaning to us at this point in our lives. Again, Each Note by Rumi. Advice doesn't help lovers. They're not the kind of mountain stream you can build a dam across. An intellectual doesn't know what the drunk is feeling. Don't try to figure what those lost inside love will do next. Someone in charge could give up all of his power if he caught one whiff of the wine musk from the room where the lovers are doing who knows what. One of them tries to dig a hole through a mountain, one flees from academic honors, one laughs at famous mustaches. Life freezes if it doesn't get a taste of this almond cake. The stars come up spinning every night, bewildered in love. They'd grow tired with that revolving if they weren't. They'd say, how long do we have to do this? God picks up the reed flute world and blows. Each note is a need coming through one of us, a passion, a longing pain. Remember the lips where the wind breath originated, and let your note be clear. Don't try to end it. Be your note. I'll show you how it's enough. Go up on the roof at night in the city of the soul. Let everyone climb on their roofs and sing their notes. Sing loud.
Did any of you have a great high school English teacher that sort of introduced you to poetry? Where what happened? Didn't go well.
It's through no fault of his, I still don't get poetry. Fellow traveler. I think a part of it was the movie Dead Poets Society.
That's fine.
It's such a wonderful movie and hard to, but it was this romantic idea of poetry giving us insight that we can't find in other ways. And I think that's true for music. I think for art, the visual arts, that all of those mediums are ways that can show us truth and help us to know, understand, give us insights that we don't get any other way. And so I've always had this romantic idea that if I ever were a pastor of a church, we'd be a poetry church, where we talked about poetry and talked about insights we get from it. So we're making it happen.
All right.
And Andrew's been a big help in this because of two things. One is he was, I know Logan had mentioned it, and maybe some of the rest of you had either, but Andrew was the first one that got through to me.
Infected you, maybe?
And with this idea of the sacredness of other things. And so now here when we talk about communion, we talk about it in these sacred ways. But when I go out to eat with you, we also talk about it in this is the sacred meal. And with poetry, here is a 13th century Muslim poet. And we believe that it's sacred, that it's infused with the divine, that the Holy Spirit could talk to Rumi just like he could talk to Paul or James or John. And so I just think that's a beautiful idea, and one that I'm actually putting into my everyday life all the time. It's also the idea of every relationship being sacred. So Andrew and I have a sacred relationship. Instead of just we're friends, now it's a sacred relationship. and we can explore the divine together. We can learn about God, and not just learn about God, but learn to be in God, to use Jesus' words. What's it mean to be in God? And so here we have a poem, and I really like, can we put up that, sort of that second half? We're going to do just that last part of it. And I know you've heard it now, but I'm going to read it for you again, just this part of it that we're going to be talking about. God picks up the reed flute world and blows. Each note is a need coming through one of us, a passion, a longing pain. Remember the lips where the wind breath originated, and let your note be clear. Don't try to end it. Be your note. What's that sound like? Where they be the whatever it is. Be the page. Be the pen. You know. Be your note. I'll show you how it's enough. Go up on the roof at night in this city of the soul. Let everyone climb on their roofs and sing their notes. Sing loud. All right, so you've known this poem for some time now.
A little bit, yeah. This is, I think I've read from the same Rumi book a few times now that, and whenever I'm asked to come here and share anything from it, what I'll do is I'll just kind of flip through it until I find one that I've like highlighted almost entirely or underlined the whole thing, and I'll kind of go from there. And this was one of those where I kind of underlined most of this poem for myself.
When you first read each note, the name of this poem, where did it lead you?
Well, it was during a time when I was just starting to, I guess, try and rebuild something different from what I felt like I had left behind in the kind of evangelical space that I was in growing up, and in college and afterward. I think for me, a lot of faith had a lot to do with certainty and with needing to have the right answers about what happens when you die, that kind of thing. And I think probably a lot of people can resonate with that on some level, even if that wasn't their whole obsession. But for me,
Did any of you do evangelism explosion?
I don't actually know what that is. You may have to help me with that.
So it's a program. This was from the 80s, and it had, you were to go, it was like go door to door to evangelize.
Yeah, I keep pronouncing the audience. I'm growing instantly too.
There are groans here.
Visceral.
There are two questions. One is, if you died today, would you know where you were going?
Ding dong. That's the next question. Yeah.
What's ding dong?
Ringing the doorbell, going something like that.
So,
The idea
hi,
that
nice
the
to meet
first
you.
thing you
Do
say
you know where you would go if you died?
Yeah.
Today. And the other one was, I don't remember, something about God's plan, I think, for your life. Do you know that God has a great plan for your life? Yes or no? No.
But yeah, that's kind of the space, I guess, that I recall coming up in and feeling those kind of obligations to have those conversations with people, but at the same time also not feeling like I really knew anything well enough to have those conversations well. So for me, there's always been uncertainty and mystery and a lot of perplexity, it's a word we like around here, surrounding faith and God and all of that stuff. And I think for me, reading things like Rumi and just getting into the words of mystics from various religions, but there are plenty of Christian mystics too. Their words were helpful to me at that time because all of a sudden here's a group of people that aren't really concerned with facts necessarily, if that makes sense, at least not in a religious sense. They're much more concerned with a deeper understanding, maybe an emotional understanding, of what it's like to be with God and to be like God in the world.
Yeah, so part of the evangelical understanding is a understanding that belief is what matters. Specific right belief.
Correct theology, right thinking.
That's
things
right.
Like that, yeah.
So the word they use is orthodoxy, which literally means right praise, but it's come to mean right belief. And so, and they would say orthopraxy, the practice of right practice comes out of right belief. And I think Rumi sort of turns that upside down. I don't know, that the belief is not what's important. Well, so, when I was in Denton, Texas, I did this thing with a lady in the church. This is a Nazarene church, so this is really questionable that we did this. We did. She was a younger person and played the piano. And we did this Keith Green piece. And it's I've never told this story that I know of. It's a story about the sheep and the goats and what the people did that got them in or not. And so I was the narrator. So I narrated this story, this parable that Jesus told about the sheep and the goats. And she played the Keith Green part that goes along with it. When he does it, he plays and says it, when he did it. But we did this together as a special music, And so here's the punchline. You go through and you tell the whole story. And the punchline is, in all of the cases, what mattered to Jesus wasn't what they believed. It was what they did. So, did you feed the hungry? Did you clothe the naked? Did you visit? It was all stuff that they did. And I have no idea how we got away with that now, except that I think people must have just assumed that we were like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. That sounds interesting. Because that's so opposed to our understanding.
Yeah, we're very much, but a
Well,
lot of
we
those
used to.
streams, are very much opposed to the works, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the,
But it's a Jesus thing.
It is a Jesus thing on some level, yeah. But I think Martin Luther himself hated, I think it was the Book of James.
Yeah, it's James.
Yeah.
Because of the works.
Yeah, because of all that stuff.
In fact, he wanted to leave it out of the canon.
Yeah,
He suggested they take it out of the canon.
because he didn't like the work stuff.
Yeah. And
And this isn't going to turn into a conversation about why you need to be doing more for the gospel, for the record. That's not where we're going.
no, that is not where we're at. But I was really interested in that idea that of doing the right thing, of acting on love, being more important than knowing how to talk about it. And this morning in Beaumont, we talked about that empathy as a godlike characteristic. The idea of doing by empathy, by empathizing with someone, is doing love. Anyway, I so interrupted you.
No, you're
You
fine.
would say when you first were reading this poem, it was leading you to where?
Well, it was leading me to embrace that there is a different path of faith that didn't need to have correct answers on a lot of things. That there was a path of faith that could look like just exulting in what life is with people. It's that last section where it depicts God as someone who's picking up the world like it's a flute and blowing into it. He's concerned with making something beautiful out of it and inviting everyone to sing, to play their own note, whatever that may be. And to me, I think that can be those works, those good works, that love expressing itself bodily in people is just, I think it starts with enthusiastically playing your note, whatever that may be. And that also is enough by itself. I've had many conversations with you, even Jon, in college, where I didn't feel like I had it, whatever it was. If I didn't feel like I had the most coherent perspectives on some parts of Scripture, or I didn't feel like I was talented enough in some area or whatever, and it all circled back around to me wanting to be down on myself for whatever reason. And poems like this, where they end up just coming to you from a place of you being you visibly is enough for God, even not even for the people around you or for yourself, but that's all that God requires of you, is that you're you. That was revelatory for me.
Yeah, I mean, and just for the context of that, by the way, if you know Andrew, you know how incredibly intelligent he is, all of those things that the church would have counted as valuable, he had. And that didn't seem like enough to you. And
It never did.
That was a lot of our conversations was, I'm not enough, in essence.
Yeah, essentially, that was kind of the prevailing feeling that hung over me during a lot of that time.
And so the idea of this poem is to give you permission to be enough as you are.
Yeah, and even earlier on in the poem, it talks about the intellectuals, the people who move and create things, and who outwardly would be enough. Those people, if they could get a taste of what it's like to simply be enough with God, they would throw it all away. They'd give up all their power. They'd even, it's a big thing in mystical circles of becoming a fool. A holy fool was even like a title given to people. And the poem even talks about people would do outrageous things. They'd run away from academic honors. They would, try to dig a hole through a mountain, which is more possible today than it was in the 13th century. But back then it was crazy. And just the idea that all of these things that people strive for, that I feel like I even tried to strive for in Christian circles, it pales in comparison and ends up meaning nothing in the light of just finding a way to be okay, basically.
So, let me tell you sort of the image I have. I've got this image of these two different pictures. In the first one, our goal, it's the butterfly idea of the metamorphosis, of change, it happens a lot in the gospel, but it's this idea of becoming who you were always meant to be, right? And it sounds to me, it smacks to me of so much, you are not enough right now. How can you change? Let us help you to become something. I mean, thinking of the title of a book that was written by one of my past pastors that said, "What life are you waiting for?" And it was this idea of, you're not enough now. Change so that you can become enough. And the other picture is, what if you are enough right now? And so, in this picture, maybe it's a mountain that you're climbing to become enough, and you reach the apex of the mountain and you've done it. And this is the picture of the hue of your, the hue, is that can you say the hue of your color, or does that mean?
Maybe a bit redundant.
Right. So your hue can become richer. If you've seen video of somebody, an amateur taking video, well, even a professional taking video of a scene. And here it is, oh, here's the beautiful countryside, home movies. This is home movies. All right, you've taken video of your vacation, and here it is. And then you see a movie, and it's a pan of the place, and it's completely different. You look at this one and you say, oh yeah, that's an amateur. Well, what's different about this than this? One of the things is color saturation. Is in the professional, they have put this color saturation in it that has made it this richness. So it's not that the scenery has changed, it's that it's become more rich. The same thing happens with when you record a song. If you record a song and it's an amateur recording it, you hear it and you say, I don't know why it's not good, but it's not. It's not. What a professional does is puts all of these effects onto what's going on. Doesn't change, well actually you do change notes some. You make it in tune, you can make the rhythm right.
But even so, it's still, before adding any effects or anything like that, the idea is to bring out the best of what's already there.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So it takes what is the essence of it and makes it rich. And so I've never run this by somebody, but I'll run it by you. So what do you think of those two pictures? The one is changing who you are to become something good. The other is becoming who you are.
Which is already good.
Which is, oh, that's great. Which is already, okay. So let me say it again. This picture is changing who you are to become something good. This is becoming who you are, which is already good.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that could sell. That could.
There's an old phrase I remember hearing quite a bit, which is "that'll preach."
Yeah, right. That'll preach. Or that dog will fly.
That dog's so good.
So that's that dog one, and that bird will fly. I think I can't remember what it is, but it's the cross of two metaphors, and here we go.
And I guess that I always feel like the need to put in caveats and stuff, but like that's not to say that we don't look at ways that we fall short, whether that's told to us by someone we trust or whether we feel it internally and don't try to examine that and grow and improve in that way. But I think what we're talking about is much more acknowledging who you already are. It's exactly what you said, but just the fact that there's not something outside of yourself that you need to attain to. The best part of you is already within you, and that sounds, even to my ears, it sounds very like, I don't know, like I'm trying to sell you something, maybe. But I think it is just it's been a kind of a turning point in my own life to not put an external standard on myself, I guess is what I'm trying to say. To try and fit into something, be it an organization, a philosophy or whatever, but rather just find on my own with God, with people that I love and trust around me, what my best is, and be okay with that process and learn along the way, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like there's something pretty profound here that I know I don't have a grasp on yet. So we do have a mic. If you know what this profound thing is, or some profound thing, this is open for you.
Well, I'll say in the meantime, even that this is why I love poetry as well, because saying it out loud, some of this stuff feels really like duh to me, to my ears of like, there's nothing, everyone here is enough. And that sounds like a quote from the Barbie movie, I'm enough.
We need the t-shirts.
We do need the t-shirts. And honestly, that is a really good thing to take away from that film.
It is. No, it's profound. It is.
You are enough in and of yourself. And again, just saying it out loud sounds so simple, sounds so duh, fine, whatever. But that's, I think, experiencing those kind of points through poetry like this. It can be dense, it can be hard to suss out what's really trying to be said at points, but I think it's the art of it that kind of makes those points hit home in a different way, at least for me.
For sure. You know, whenever I've come across this idea a few times, and there's always, one of the pushbacks is always, so do we just sit around and watch TV? You know, if we're enough right now, then why not just get back, get a beer, except I don't like beer, but you know, and watch football. You got anything for that?
Well, I think, and even for me, I think that's the response that's the feared response of like, oh, if we let people think this way, nothing good will ever get done and everyone will just sit back and not care about their fellow man or, you know, try and attain to anything better. And I think more what this invites us to, this way of thinking, is to actually live into being better without feeling an obligation with it, or like it's something unattainable. And that's kind of my off the cuff with it at the moment.
Yeah.
So if you give people something positive, which is what I think that statement is, we are enough. To my way of thinking, of course, I'd get bored if I just sat back. I don't like beer either. But, you know, saying something, working up to something positive is a springboard for going forward. And every time you tell somebody something negative, it like freezes them up. At least it does for me.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
It definitely did for me.
Yes. So, I mean, if people want to use that as an excuse to sit around and just watch football and drink beer, go for it.
Yeah, so what if our motivation is always supposed to be positive instead of coming out the negative? What if God doesn't love, what if God's best tactic isn't fear and guilt and shame? But instead, what if love actually propels us into the deepness of who we are?
When I was in a position where I was constantly criticized, I started doing less and less. It was, you're gonna rant for 10 minutes about how poorly I cleaned the mirror. I'm not gonna clean any more mirrors in-house, ever. And when I've been in environments like I'm in now, where there's all of this positive feedback, I accomplish a lot because I'm not scared to try things. So like, it sounds like you just sit on the couch and do nothing, but at least for me, I found that to be the reverse.
That is great. You know, my mom, even though she was very much a product of evangelicalism and, well, you know, a lot of the things that we would think of in negative ways of the early 20th century, mid-20th century, she always went with this thing that we're talking about. She mainly told me how wonderful she thought I was. And when a mom tells you that, you start to believe it. And with that comes growth, and not again changing from becoming what I was to, but growth of becoming my best me.
Yeah, and that set of mind, what if recognizing ourselves as enough leads us to better accepting others? Maybe this is the living out of loving your neighbor as yourself.
Oh, is that ever profound, Matt? Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. So if I've been thinking all of this in terms of myself, you know, but how we look at others is the same way we look at ourselves. So if I'm always looking for myself to change so that I can become good enough, I'm absolutely looking at other people for them to change to become good enough too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I found that I am, at least I feel, much better able to engage with people who, you know, keep it to maybe friends of mine who open up to me about something that they maybe aren't content with in themselves. I feel like I'm much better able to healthily engage with them on those rather than I guess just like agree that something needs to change or be better. Like I guess these days, and this is me, it feels like I'm tooting my own horn, so I apologize. It may not sound like that to anyone else, but I feel so much more compassion toward people, I feel like, with this mentality of like, I see people in these kind of states where, you know, I'm not what I need to be, I need to do better with X, Y, Z, I need to blank, basically, is how the conversation unfolds, and I feel like I get this great opportunity to look at my friends who say things like that about themselves and say, maybe if you want to, maybe if you think that will help you, but I want you to know that I see you as perfectly fine in this moment. And maybe that's the compassion that I've been wanting to give myself for a long time too, coming through.
Boy, I can feel the sort of judgment coming off of me, you know, because this is the antidote to judgment. I've mentioned this story, but one of my students in college had a computer, and on it said, "I am worthy." And for the evangelical, that is not true. None of us are worthy. And so it was hard for me to go there, but she's right. And if we can live into our own worthiness instead of into our changedness, wow, what does that do to judgment but just defeat it?
I would say that worthiness is like the prerequisite to belong to yourself.
Perfect.
Which is what gives you the capacity to grow, to change, to develop. You don't really grow, change, and develop when you recognize a need. You grow, change, and develop whenever you're centered in yourself and you can see your own capacity, because that's how you focus on. You can look ahead and go, I want to skip there, but I can't. I can only put one foot in front of the other right now. This is all I'm capable of, and that's good enough. But I'll get there. It takes time.
Yeah, and I think with that progression, it makes that hypothetical of the person sitting and watching football, drinking beer all the time. I think if they're truly in that place of, hey, I'm worthy, I am enough, you know, I can be me and join in with God, with the world. If you're really in that place, I think that time watching football easily turns into sharing, watching that game with people around you, hosting something, you know, engaging with people about it where you think you may not have anything in common. That, you know, I don't think that ever really just ends with you. I think that hypothetical, that fear that people may have of, you know, everyone just turning into a bum like that is really the product of what we're trying to get away from,
Right. Yeah.
more than what we're trying to get into with this.
Yeah, so if we got rid of, Tawana said this, can I say that? She said this thing lately that she tells all of her family, no fear, no guilt, no shame. We're not going to do that.
Love it.
And it's been so healthy for us, and it's not what she has come out of. She's been Her life was built on fear and guilt and shame. That's how she has achieved, seemingly how she's achieved so many things. And it isn't. It's been in spite of guilt and fear and shame. And those things, she could have, I think, been herself so much more easily if those hadn't been a part. Boy, I know that there's, and we'll get there. There's something else that we're going to talk about at some time, and I don't know what it is yet, but it's something with this that is, there's a richness that I know I don't understand yet, and it has to do with the beauty of who we are as individuals. I think that God doesn't see us for who we're going to become, but God enjoys us for who we are. And somehow that seeing our beauty, and again, I don't know how to talk about it yet, but I know that there's something here of living into the beauty of who we are as individuals, and the beauty of who we are as a church and as a people. I think all of those are true. And we'll let Rumi and I don't know if we'll let Paul into this conversation or not, but maybe. And we'll let other writers into this conversation and help us. And some of you, I know, have thought deeply about this, and you can help us understand what this means too. Having said that, we're going to go into communion. And so we have drink and things back there. And you can go and get them, and then we'll meet back here and take them together. I don't know if this is oxymoronish or not, but I would sort of like for us to commit together to not striving, but to commit together to living into the beauty that is in us. Even as I'm looking at you and seeing the beauty, I want to have God's eyes that sees like where I can see like they see. So even as we take this with this idea of becoming instead of changing to be. As we drink this, it's the idea of, again, of becoming who we are, of becoming the body of Christ together, of entering into what it means to be one with Christ, and what it means to be one with each other. And so we do it together. As a symbol of that, not just becoming individually the beautiful thing we are, but becoming as a body together the beautiful thing that we are together. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of this. get to do the journey together. We don't have to make this up on our own. We get to learn and become together. And so I really appreciate that. Thank you online. For any of you who are sick, I'm thinking of one in particular. Just I hope you feel better soon and get well soon. If there are any here who are sick, we wish the very best for you. And we know that God is with us in whatever we go through. Some of you are having hard times with various things. I tell you, the Holy Spirit does not leave us alone. But the Holy Spirit is with us in the heart. In everything we do, the Holy Spirit is there. And she adores you, even as you are today. Amen. Andrew, thank you for sharing today. I'm excited next week. We have a special guest coming. She's a priest from the church just down the road here. If you go this way, where am I? Yeah. If you go this way to Parkersville and turn right, you'll see St. Raphael Episcopal Church there. And she's the priest of that church. So, that way. Did I say it wrong?
We got GPS, John, it's okay.
Yeah. That way. Turn right. Thank you. Thank you. And her name's Helen. She can't come, on Sunday mornings to Beaumont here to visit because she's a pastor of her own church. But she could come here. So she's going to join me. We're going to have a talk. She spent a lot of her life in Mozambique. Not a lot of her life, but a good amount of her life in Mozambique. And we're going to talk through some of that. And so please come back next week and bring others with you. I'd love for anybody to hear her. Any other announcements? Becoming Presbyterian. We need to know if you want to be a part of that. So that's 2 weeks from today and 3 weeks from today. It'll be here, and the reason we need to know if you're going to come is because there's food. And there's free lunch. And so we want to be able to tell kind people making free lunch how many of us there will be. So please let Logan know about that. And that's 2 weeks and 3 weeks from today. Being Presbyterian, it doesn't mean you have to mean you have to become a member. It's nothing like that. It's just, what does that mean to be Presbyterian? All right. Family Festival is October 7th. Any way that you would be involved, you can talk to Danny about that. Now, any other announcements? That's it?
T wants to say something.
Yeah, Dee, do you want to talk?
Hey guys, yeah, is it okay if I do talk?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, hold on. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to share some exciting news with you guys. I did get accepted to some colleges. I was really, wanted to tell you guys for, a while, but I haven't gone to Beaumont in a while, so, I did get accepted to Transylvania and South Carolina, and another school that is somewhere out in Owensboro.
That is fantastic. Congratulations, T. That is really wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. I actually got into the the free law program there, so I'm so excited. I can't even believe I got in.
Transie's a wonderful school. It's a very fine school. And I don't know much about South Carolina, but I think that they're the premier institution of their state.
Yeah, I accidentally applied to the wrong college, so South Carolina's kind of like out of my list, but
Well, a transit would be fantastic, and then we could have you here too.
yeah.
Go.
I
That's
don't know
great.
when I would be back to moving because apparently I tore like my ACL and I went on a soccer trip and I fell on it, so I think I would have to go through surgery for it, but I do hope I can be back into moving soon.
Yeah, and always welcome, never obligated. We miss you and we love you, and we'll take you whenever you're available.
I just want to share that exciting news with you guys.
Great news, T. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
All right. We love you all, and we'll see you next week.